I don't know.
We're live. Here we are coming kind of live from Vegas at AAPEX, obviously delayed by a week. Unfortunately, we had some technical difficulties on a handful of live podcasts out there in Vegas, Tromml being one. But regardless, it's a really exciting time in the industry, and Tromml, I think, is a really exciting up-and-coming company in our organization. It's led by, I'm not going to say fearless leaders, because I feel like that's always just like, oh, everyone's fearless, everyone's awesome. But they really are. Lauren McCullough and Harry Park, co-founders of Tromml, heavily involved in the AI, data analytics. And so for us to have an opportunity to sit down with them, there's a few things that interest me. Is you're young in the industry, and what kind of puts you and what drives you into this place of founding a company in automotive. We've over the years have begun to just continue to see each other at obviously industry events, but I think Tromml is one of the really exciting up and coming companies in our industry. And without further ado, Laura, Harry, welcome to the 2W podcast.
Hello again, Gideon.
I know. I am so sorry. I was devastated whenever, well, let's talk about it. So we were in AAPEX, we had an incredible session, and the internet just bogged down and I couldn't understand anybody. And we had so much good content and so much good discussion, but I'm sorry.
No, your AAPEX setup was great. The energy of the show and AAPEX and your podcast was really good.
Oh, well, nah, I appreciate it. But I will say, I agree. What was y'all's take on AAPEX? I thought it was a great week. I don't know why it seemed like engaging and everybody was pretty fired up. Just a really good play. I just think it was awesome.
Yeah. It felt definitely like a high buzz on both the AAPEX and the SEMA side. I thought this year, I know the SEMA side, I mean, maybe it just felt more crowded because North Hall was closed. So I guess everything got consolidated a little bit, but yeah, I felt like it was, and I know it took me at least a few days to even know where it was. So
yeah,
anything.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't get a chance to spend any time at SEMA. Obviously, we were at AAPEX. But regardless, I think I agree. I think the feedback is a lot of the same, and I think it's just it's quite fun it's a fun time to be in our industry, I think.
For sure.
We see a lot of guys, older kind of generations, like the OGs of our industry, kind of starting to look at hanging it up. We're seeing a lot of transition of not power, because I don't believe in that, but like just transition of leadership to kind of this newer. All of us are kind of in that same age where we grew up, maybe in college, starting out with a phone. Tech was starting to become advanced. It's not like we have had tech our whole lives, or we've kind of lived in both worlds. And I think we're seeing I'm seeing a big shift in leadership and how we think about commerce and how we think about data and how we think about the industry.
Totally. And I honestly would even say that a lot of this change, I think, has really happened in the last couple of years. I think, to your point, it's part of this is there is a transition in leadership. I think there's a lot of hungry new people, and the efforts that have been put on kind of recruitment of talent in the aftermarket industry, I think, is starting to kind of manifest into, like I said, more of a leadership roles. But I know, even you look back when I entered the industry in 2019, like this adoption of technology was, people were so allergic to it. And now people feel there's still a lot of questions. There's still a lot of uncertainty, but that hunger for knowing that the way it's always been done is no longer going to be acceptable, I think has really hit us in the face. I think from an e-commerce standpoint, the pandemic really, put some probably acceleration on that, just because if you look at the DIY market, it really started to reshape that side. But even in a bigger sense, like we've seen, a lot of chapter 11s, right? We've seen a lot of people really struggling quarter after quarter. And I think the companies that we do see thriving are those who have either a digital native culture or have embraced innovation or have really tried to grasp technology and not just adopt it, but actually put it to work more effectively. And I think people are noticing. And the more they notice, the more that adoption is going to accelerate, no matter what type of technology we're talking about here.
Well, I agree. So I've been about, 10, 12 years in the industry, came up to the distribution world, developed great e-commerce divisions, but I was shocked. I was shocked at how difficult it was just to get, testing on new technology, right? Things that are going to accelerate the business. I was shocked at how hard it was to get the adoption. I felt like I became an internal salesman. I'm like, holy shit, how am I becoming an internal salesman? What? Like, this is a very, I've always believed that, like, when you start to look at tech in our industry, you're looking for really, low risk, high upside, right? And I think with what you guys do, from an analytical perspective, as I've kind of dove in deeper into your business, just understanding that you have a lot of different omni channels that are coming into your org. And when you say chapter 11 in organizations, some distributors, I'm not going to name any names, that have kind of gone belly up or they've struggled. A lot of it is understanding profitability and where is a leak in the boat. And whenever you catch it in Q4 from Q1, that's a major problem.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like we're working so hard to get the upside, but there's kind of this, like, resistance that's been holding, I think, a lot of organizations back. And I'm not going to say every answer is in the data, but a lot of it is. And that's the stuff that's in your nucleus of control. And so it's taken, I think, people a while to recognize that not every business deal should be done just on a handshake at a circle bar at AAPEX. But I think we're there, not that there's not good deals done there too, but you know what I'm saying? It's that relation. The relationships of the industry have brought us here, and I think it's technology that's going to take us to that next generation.
Well, the relationships won't go anywhere, right? The relationships won't go anywhere because we're humans, right? We love, this week, right? It was so much fun bumping into each other at 3:00 around a bar and everyone just having a great time, right? There's a time and a place for that. But when that's not the end all be all from a profitability growth perspective, I think, and that's one thing I would really love. And it was such an intriguing Tromml. Walk us through, Harry or Lauren, one of y'all, Tromml and the core mission, right? What is the core mission? And then we'll get into how you came up with the name, because I think that's really interesting.
Yeah. So I think, the way we really think about it in a grandest sense is, how do we make people feel smarter doing their jobs? And I know that sounds like an oversimplistic answer, but we're in a world where, particularly if we're looking at roles like an analyst and data scientist, it's really, really difficult to fill these roles. And you have a lot of smart people who are just never trained in these type of skills. And they're getting told from the world and from their organization that they need to, for, in the lens that we look in, to be data driven, to be more technology forward. But actually doing that is really difficult. And that adoption, learning curve, I think, can actually have some demoralizing outcomes for people and actually hurt overall productivity. And so when we think what we're really doing is we're trying to democratize the access to being data driven across an organization in a way that's actually quite empowering to the human. Because while we're serving the business, at the end of the day, it's the individuals that are making the decisions on the ground that we work for. Those are the people we work for, and those are the people that we're making sure we can translate information for it. And we're doing it in a way where we can look at this. And then when you go up, like, to the top layer of how do we make this industry combat its biggest competitor, which is just waste and bad decisions, right? We can have these jokes about butting heads with our competitive brands and, competing over market share. But at the end of the day, the amount of waste that goes into bad fill rates, profit leaks, poor fulfillment practices, right? We could go down a list of 20,000 items, right? It is pretty profound. And I think that for us, it's really being able to have a rising tides moment for this industry, because we saw the race to the bottom, we saw what happened. And I think that there is a prosperous market in which every single brand that's out here today can still win. And those that have that competitive edge can really take the reins to shaping kind of the next generation of their company in a way that, like I said, has strong profitability growth for the owners and its stakeholders and its investors, but then also provides a exciting, more prosperous work, because we want to be seen and make the automotive aftermarket seen as one of the industries people want to gravitate towards, like the smartest people want to go to. And so for us, like, there's this intangible culture shift that we want to try to be able to make by introducing technology. So this is an exciting recruitment field for people. It happens on the technician side too, right? How do we introduce the role of virtual reality and augmented reality to show technicians that their job isn't just about getting greasy anymore, right? It's about being an engineer. And I think there's a similar role on the fulfillment side, the operation side for aftermarket part sellers. And, I think for us, like, it's being able to leverage our platform to be able to do that as a technology introduced, but also as, again, just a general cultural shift.
Yeah, it's really funny because there was a running joke. It's so funny, like margin erosion is, the race to the bottom. And, I was talking to a guy about this, and what I found so funny about race to the bottom is the consumer never asked for a better price.
Nope.
They never ask for a better price. Like, and that's what always boggled my mind. The consumer never asked for a better price. They're just looking to fix their vehicle. But internally, we've created this cancer and this pressure cooker where race to the bottom happens. And now you have organizations that should not go out of business. They should not. It should be an acquisition or they merge into a larger conglomerate, which is fine. Somebody exits the business, right? An old owner. And we move in a healthy manner. The opportunity cost stays the same. I mean, the demand stays the same, right? It has to go somewhere. So I think you're seeing that, a lot of that. But I think that's a really interesting take, and I totally agree with you. I think that we are at a culture shift in our industry.
Yeah, and so, like, it's like, should we be competing over, like, chipping away at 25 cents on the dollar for all these parts being sold, or should we make sure they're in the right place at the right time? Because what's happening is, if we look at fill rate issues, these cars are sitting in bays, taking up repair shop, like, this is just on the do it for me side, right? Taking up space. It's frustrating to technicians. It's bad for consumers who can't get to work. And no one, again, to your point, no one ever asked for a better price. They just wanted their car fixed. Right. But you're right. We created this in our head. And I think part of it happened out of these aggregating systems, things like Amazon and eBay, that
100%.
while good in theory, accidentally created this very odd dynamic, which was even more painful because of the margin that they took away, right? And the liberal return policies and other things that were introduced. And so it just ended up being this, like you said, we created this fallacy in our minds of, well, we just have to underprice people, and let's throw a repricing tool on this and let it go rogue. But that's not really what people wanted. They just wanted to make sure they were getting the right part that they could trust. And at the end of the day, if you're a retailer right now, you're selling trust as much as you're selling anything.
Totally. I think 100% more than ever. Harry, how do you, from your perspective, obviously you're on the tech side, you run the CTO org of Tromml.
Yeah.
When you walk through this, how does your mind think? Do you just think in X's and O's, ones and zeros?
So
bullets. Actually, I have a great technologist friend, very good technologist. Probably, I'm not a technologist, but meaning like, on the back end, and I thought he was brilliant. And every time I talked to him, it was just like he talks in like X's and O's. Black fight, all this logic based.
I see it as like so many groups of systems trying to get them to, inputs and outputs, trying to get them connected together. So kind of I don't know. I love this game Factorio, and I look at it as like trying to connect all the different systems to get the right output that you want. And in that game, you're trying to launch a spaceship. But I would say like where I see the current industry is, especially like you mentioned, conglomeration and like people doing a lot of buy-ups. I think that creates a lot of friction for a lot of organizations that are getting bigger, and that they've acquired a bunch of systems, bought, another company has a different ERP, has different sales system, has different channels that it's going through. And at some point they've realized that they need to have a better view of what that looks like holistically to make change. And while they do have it running from like a accounting perspective of looking at it in aggregate, most of the changes to really affect something have to happen down at the SKU level. Like you need to know the exact thing that's the exact product that's not performing, or the category that you're getting the most growth in, and under which store and which channel, so that you can pour gas on that fire. And so when I look at like what we're doing at Tromml, and what I think one of our advantages is that we can sit on top of all those different systems, collect those reports, collect data from those different systems without affecting them, right?
Mm-hmm.
All the workflow stays the same. We're trying to become like be that analytics data source of truth, but really mostly to feed some type of output, whether it's an AI chat, whether it's a dashboard, whether it's some type of report that's going to drive further change or allow people to get to the right spot to make better decisions. That's where I see the Tromml. And like, remember we talked about at AAPEX, like where did we come up with the name Tromml?
Yeah. Yeah.
And when we first started this company, I was on a walk and doing some of my best thinking on walks as usual. And I was like, man, what do we need? We need to name this thing. And I thought about what we're doing. And it's like, what we're still doing is looking at all these really like piles of data, whether they're all in different types of systems, different channels, different other external systems, trying to bring it together, then trying to like literally sift through it to figure out what's working, what's not. And there's this show on Discovery called Gold Rush. And I love that show. It's about these Alaskan miners and they're rough and ready, which I felt like we were. And, you know, they build these systems to try to collect as much dirt as possible, sift through it, get the little bits of gold that are out there. And I was like, that's basically what we're doing. We're sifting through mountains and mountains of data, trying to find these insight gold nuggets that are going to really help businesses change their performance. And so I was like, oh, Tromml. That's basically it was like that. And I just love that analogy because so much of like the spirit of it, you know, just people putting together these systems. Sometimes there's always something breaking. And in those shows, it's always like they've got a problem. So there's a system. Obviously, there's something gets broken. They fix it. They weigh the gold at the end. And I feel like for us, that's pretty much what we do all the time. It's like we build these systems. There's a problem. We've run in to fix it. You know, try to measure the gold at the end of the day with our clients. And so I was like, okay, Tromml, that's pretty good. And it's just, it's held up, honestly.
Well, I want to really tick my hat on that because when we were talking at AAPEX and I know the recording was bad, I don't even know if you should ever explain it any other way. If you're going like it makes so much sense. And I am a super fan of Gold Rush. And I know we got on kind of some stories about it. They actually just kicked off their new season like 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Now we know what to get into this weekend.
I know. Well, no. Okay. So this actually is a terrible story. So, so I was like a week or two late. And so I'm sitting here watching the first season of season 15 Gold Rush, right? Parkel Schnabel, Rick Ness. I mean, I know all those. I feel like I know them well. Like they're my homies. And, my wife sits down and she's always just like, every season, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Oh, something breaks. Oh, we get a fix. We bush fix it, and then we get the gold. And she goes, and so then we're sitting there watching it. And I was like, wait, I've seen this before. And then she's like, is this? And I was so confused. I was caught off. I didn't know if it was the new season, the old season. And she goes, and she was just like, you're proving my freaking point. She's like, here you are, a super fan, and you don't even know what season it is because every season it's the same bullshit. We broke it with this, you know. But new season of Gold Rush just came out. I think it's fantastic, and I know we got into some other things with Rick Ness and his problems. But you got to watch it. I'm going to send you the episode that kind of shows you everything there. But yeah, I think that's awesome. I really do. I think it's so amazing, and I think it's an incredible story how you got there.
Yeah. But you know, just to like kind of torture that a little bit further, right? Is like, I mean, that even continues to carry over even in just what you said, right? That's the opportunity for us to do this for this market because 100%. You know, if you were to build your own Tromml as an individual organization, I'm not saying you can't do it, right? You put enough capital out, you can solve this as a technology problem. But what we're able to do is understand in the confines of the Alaskan terrain / the automotive aftermarket industry, how do you rinse and repeat this process so you can take this and replicate it and you perfect it over time? And I mean, I'm such a strong believer in well applied software and such a critic of poorly applied software. And I think that is such a challenge for our industry as we go through this shift to digital adoption that we want to build it ourselves, right? We want to own this relationship. And there are certain times when it makes sense to build your own stack. But when you're talking about trying to build a system in the wake of of AI and new technology, and you're shifting and you're changing. Like, that's why we want to be able to build this system that can be deployed for, 1,500 seasons or whatever you want to
Yep.
call it, because we understand how to perfect that gold mining process. We understand where to look, what to look for, and fool's gold, real gold, like what is it? And being able to get that, because the companies that we're serving are not technology companies. They are really, really good at selling parts. And we're
Mhm.
really, really good at finding what's important about the sales of those parts. And that's where this partnership has worked so well together with our existing company. And we were talking to a buying group yesterday who brought up the fact that, like, we realized, like, we're a data company. That's actually what we are right now. We're not a relationship company. And as more and more people recognize that, we want to be able to link those partnerships together so we can do what we can do, you can do what you can do, and we can both have a prosperous path forward together.
Well, specialization is where not just our industry going, it's going in the future, right? The days of being a 40-year-old, 40 years in one company are kind of over, right? The average employee today moves around every 2 to 3 years. And so what happens is, whenever you begin to build these things internally on your own, like you can, to your point, you can do anything, right? You can build anything you want. But what happens is I think it starts to get you away from the core focus of your business, right? Are you a distributor? Are you a manufacturer? If you're a manufacturer, manufacture stellar products. Like, manufacture the best effing product you could ever find, right? If you're a distribution, be a distributor that is an incredible distributor, right, for the marketplace. So I think we're going to continue to see specialization in these pieces. And also, what I think people do, whenever they say partner with a company like yourself, Tromml, to ultimately find the little gold nuggets in their business to make better decisions, is that they're paying for your failures. I'm not saying that you guys have sat here and just shot right up to the top without bumps and failures. No company's ever done that, ever in the history. There's failures, there's bumps, there's learnings. And what they do is, over a period of time, they pay for those learnings, right? That's the specialization in that you feel. And I think that we're going to continue to see our industry move into hyper specialization. And I think whenever you look at data, you look at AI, you look at kind of how do we really understand our omni channel, I think you guys are really doing an awesome job.
Exactly. And I mean, sometimes, especially when we're working with e-commerce sellers, sometimes the first few months of what we're doing are helping them know what they should stop doing.
Yep.
Right. Like, there is this a little bit of an elimination process that has to happen. And sometimes that's the products they sell. Sometimes that's the geographies they serve. Sometimes that's the categories they're supporting, the marketing campaigns, because the ability to fix those profit leaks has such significant lift so fast. And again, that could be an actual profit leak of a net negative sale, or that could just be something that's pulling your target margin down, depending on your circumstances. And I think that our tool definitely lends itself towards this world of helping people specialize, because we allow them to know, okay, you want to double down, but where? Well, let's point that out, right? And measure and repeat over time, right? Because it's not you can't, like, doing these once a year category reviews, it's not going to work.
Well, I've been a part of eliminating 20 plus million from a P&L in the commerce side. I've been a part of bringing on, 20 plus million in a P&L. And I can't tell you how many times we get to the review of it and, like, holy shit, we lost $250,000. Right. Like, well, we thought it was 12%, gross profit. Well, now it's actually -3. And it's like, well, why? Oh my gosh. It's, and so I've literally been a part of that. And we didn't know until like a year later. And I'm like, how much money have y'all lost years prior? Well, we don't know. We think we got rebates. Well, what the hell does that even mean? Like, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
And so no, I think it's really important. Very exciting company. I know we're about up on time here, guys, and I want to give you guys, your day or whatever. But Tromml, you guys are really exciting, and I would say, please, as you guys continue to make breakthrough, advancements on your side, and you really want to kind of launch them into the marketplace, let me know. Love to have you guys talk about it.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gideon.
Awesome. Yeah, Tromml, excellent in data analytics, young company. Obviously, you are meeting the founders, Laura McCullough, CEO, and the CTO, Harry Park. Better in person. They're great. They're better in person. And so we will be seeing you again. I'm sure you guys will be at some other industry events. ACPN's coming up. I know there's PR. It's tons of stuff. We look forward to seeing you guys again. As always, if you want to connect with them, I'm sure Tromml.com, right? Keep me honest here. Tromml.com. Also, you can, I'm sure, reach them out on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn seems to be a very active place. If you have any questions on what they do or how maybe they can better help your organization, Tromml, new company. I think you guys have a very bright future, and it is an exciting time. As always, we are the voice of the industry. This is the 2W Podcast.